Treasury Secretary explains tariffs can lower inflation. I like this guy. I found out recently that he was working with George Soros. He was George Soros's like economist or whatever he was. I'm not sure. Maybe you know more about that than I do. He's into bonds. He's a bonds dude. So he was handling that for George Soros in the UK. And they pretty much betted against the UK's economy, from my understanding, and made a lot of money. And Trump was like, well, you know what you're doing. I want you in my circle. So, I mean, I don't like that he was working with George Soros because that guy's fucking evil. But he knows what he's doing. So,
to these people, and you know, you're getting them now, like when they're in positions of power, to them, it was money.
Yes.
It was always money, and that was the name of the game, especially what you're talking about was the crisis that UK faced in their currency. And that's what George Soros exploited from the UK, and the currency was it's difficult to, I can't even explain it properly, but something was dwindling in their system. He took advantage of it, and when the currency, it caused like a currency drop. And it caused a huge issue in their economy because it was their currency at the time. And when it comes to the tariffs in particular, there's three things Americans take pride in, whether they realize it or not. We were pioneers. I mean, a lot of the original Americans, there was a lot of people that came that never made it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that died by the conditions here. They were pioneers. They started a natural order society like before and then the Constitution. And the Constitution is really supposed to be about the government protecting our liberties. To put it frank,
or better said, to limit the government to give us freedom.
While limiting the government,
yeah.
To protect our liberties. Right. To protect our liberties, you limit the government because they knew that government was a cancer. It's a parasitic, monopolistic, compulsive entity.
Yes, it is. 100%.
They could, and the four things that the Constitution was meant to protect was our right to self-ownership, which is body, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, our right to private property, our right to production on our private property, and of course, voluntary trade. Among some other things, you had the, part of protection of our liberties that we can own guns because they knew that you could. But those four things are the bedrock of a free economy. Tariffs are a way for the government to get control, or this famous word, unilateral basis, to get funds for trade. And they could get to control the market economy within their borders, and also, especially in our case, being in the U.S., affect outside, because we're the world reserve currency. We're a consumer economy. Mm-hmm. China's an exporter economy.
Yeah, that's why they tanked after the tariffs.
Yeah, and just to put that, and we're a consumer economy. Consumer spending and government spending are the two main ways that our GDP are the two biggest influence on our GDP. For China is their export. And then there's and also we have investments. Those are the four variables to measure GDP: investments, imports, consumer spending, and government spending. And the U.S., we're a huge consumer economy because we're the world reserve currency. We have financial products here, so they're using tariffs to either bring people to their knees or to make favorable deals for the U.S. But it's not for you and me as consumers. It's for the government to bring in. If you notice their wording, they talk about bringing industries back that make the U.S. vulnerable. And it depends how you look at it. If you're really about a free society, a capitalist society, then you want voluntary trade to exist. And I think we were using earlier the example of shirts from Vietnam, and that's one of the tariffs. If I like shirts from Vietnam that cost $5, but that same shirt cost me here in the U.S. $12, I'm going to buy the shirt from Vietnam because maybe I sacrifice. I like that shirt for whatever reason. It comes from my consciousness. So I take the action and I buy that shirt. But if you create conditions now where that shirt is going to be a lot higher because there's a tariff, now you're forcing my hand. Now I'm either forced to buy this $12 shirt from the US, or maybe they make the tariffs at a certain level where the shirt also costs $12, right? Maybe I can't afford neither shirt now, because I was able to afford it because it was $5 before, and I valued that shirt was at least $5. Because if it was $8, I might not value it, but I know that for $5 for sure, and I would buy it. So the tariffs are not such a great thing for consumers, but it's a great thing for the state. The state meaning the government.
Right.
Because now they're bringing industries back. And if you are one of the shirt producers in Vietnam, where you were buying the shirt, yeah, it sucks that the shirt's going to cost more. So now you got two options. Either you find a way to make the shirt even cheaper over there, so when you bring it over, it's your profit margins are, or you open a factory here.
Which is what they want.
Yeah, which is what they want. And so, you can be, there was two options in the election, Biden or Trump. And
or Kamala and Trump.
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that's right. And I would say that it was, if I could vote again, I would vote for the same person.
Yeah.
Because even if I don't agree with the tariffs, but it just know that it stops consumers' choices. It stops consumer spending. And I think that's what they want. Maybe not as far as choices, but the tariffs create an opportunity where now someone has less choices and things are going to cost a little bit more if they're produced here. Now they're more enticed to save money. And if they're saving money and they're holding dollars, maybe the money isn't inflated as much. And it keeps the currency more within the domestic. There's a lot of variables. There's so many variables.
I think you're onto something there.
To the decisions that they make.
But I think you're onto something there.
But because they keep talking about a trade surplus. Like as if I want the $5 shirt from Vietnam, I'm buying the shirt for $5, and now there's a trade surplus of $5 because we sent $5. But really, a true economist knows that the value is not in the $5 sent over there. It's actually in the product. That's the whole reason there's money. There's the whole reason the trade is happening.
Right. I want to buy the product, and I'm giving you what it's worth.
Yeah. It's actually, the value is actually in the product or the service, not in the money. But they view it as, since we're the world reserve currency, we have no choice here to view it as, a trade surplus, because to them the U.S. now the U.S. has to value it as, the dollar is.
So Walmart said that they're gonna have to increase their prices because of what you're saying. So he disagrees with Walmart. So take a look at this really quick. I have to put my glasses on and off. Can't see.
Walmart announced this week it's going to have to raise prices on some goods, and they blame Trump's tariffs, particularly the tariffs on China. Here's the CEO. Take a listen.
We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible. But given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins. We're positioned to manage the cost pressure from tariffs as well or better than anyone. But even at the reduced levels, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices.
So President Trump went on Truth Social and says Walmart should eat the tariffs. In other words, not pass on the prices to consumers. Doesn't that inherently serve as an acknowledgement that tariffs are essentially a tax on consumers? Because initially President Trump said, well, other countries, that's not true. Countries pay for the tariffs. But here we have a perfect example. China gets these tariffs, and then Walmart has to raise its prices, and consumers end up paying for them.
Well, Jake, in essence, what you're saying is taxes are inflationary, so let's pass the Trump tax cuts, and that'll be disinflationary.
This guy.
If we continue that line of thinking.
I don't know that you can put me on as endorsing anything, but go ahead.
Let's just keep everything consistent. I did speak to Doug McMillan, who I have a very good relationship, yesterday, just to understand what he had to say. And understand that came from an earnings call. On an earnings call, because of SEC requirements, they have to give the most draconian case. So Walmart will be absorbing some of the tariffs. Some may get passed on to consumers. But the other thing that's happening is that inflation is down. We had the first drop in inflation in 4 years under President Trump. The other thing that Doug mentioned to me is for his consumers, for his buyers, the most important thing are gasoline prices. And this administration has gotten gasoline prices down. Service prices are down. So overall, I would expect inflation to remain in line. But I don't blame consumers for being skittish after what happened to them 4 years under Biden. We had the worst inflation in 40 years.
All right, thank you. Thoughts?
So he's a good speaker to dodge that curveball. But of
Yes,
course,
he is.
it's like what we were just talking about. It's inflationary to consumers, and you have less choices. And just like Amazon was going to put to justify their price increases and put a tariff, and obviously Trump made the call to Jeff
no, the
Bezos.
fuck you're not, bro.
yeah, for real. Now this is the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're just saying, you guys swallow it, the business. But someone like Walmart, just like grocery stores, they're operating on a 3% margin. A lot of people don't know this. When they say, "Oh, food prices are off the roof," it's the companies, and we're gonna
But
check
doesn't
them.
Walmart sell a bunch of stuff? They don't just sell groceries. They sell clothes.
They sell clothes, but
everything.
but these retail stores, they don't operate, unless it's clothing companies. They don't operate on such a high margin on their goods. For every let's say $1, they may be making 3 to 5 cents. We think that it's so much, but it's not. And if their products are coming from, let's say, China, and there's 100% tariff, that's a double the increase. It doesn't matter if gas drops a lot. So the boat to get over here, the energy it costs the boat to cross is less because the gas is cheaper. That's true. That's actually a bigger variable than what we give it credit for. A lot of times as consumers, we don't really go deep into this, but that the product itself costs now double. And Walmart, who, if you think about it, who's shopping at Walmart? People that don't have a lot of money. The people going to Publix, they may be willing to pay an extra $1 to get 5 sausages, an extra $1 here, an extra $2 here to get the product that they want. But the people shopping at Walmart, they're actually the ones that don't have a lot of money. And if you're doing a tariff, and now someone that doesn't have a lot of money that's shopping at Walmart now is going, and now they may not be able to buy as much, Walmart still wants them to at least go there, and they need an excuse. So what do they try to do? Explain the tariffs. But they're saying no, that Walmart needs to swallow it up.
But don't you also think it's kind of like politics? Because it's like, why do you have to say it like that? Like, there's a way the guy was a CEO, right?
Who,
the
Besant?
the Walmart guy? No, the Walmart dude was
yeah,
CEO.
yeah.
As a CEO, like, you should, there's ways to word things where it's not so, like, negative, Like, why would you say it in a way where it's so negative, where you clearly are against the tariffs because of the way you're, because of how you said it? There's so many other ways he could have said that. Like, oh, we don't want this to go up in price, and we will do our best to not get them to have to pay, but we don't really know, or, but not be so like, yeah, they're going to have to pay more because tariffs are screwing us, so we're going to have to essentially screw them,
I think Besant said that was in an earnings call.
Yeah, that's what he said. It was the most draconian.
So if it's in an earning call, it was towards investors. He wasn't saying that to the consumers that shop at
right.
Walmart.
Yeah, but the consumers are hearing it.
Yeah, the consumers are hearing it, but consumers don't listen to earnings call. Like the ones listening to the earning calls are the ones that have money in the Walmart stock, and he's sharing to the investors what is to be expected, and there's no other way to sugarcoat it. The prices of things and the options are going to go down, and prices are going to go up on the cheaper products. The products that are already made in the US, they're going to get an advantage because they're going to be bought. And if there's tariffs coming, maybe the good coming from China is still cheaper than the American product, but now it's at a differential rate where it's more acceptable to a consumer, and they say, oh wow, I want to buy the American product. But nothing has ever been stopping the consumer from buying an American product. If you're American and you want to buy American products, nothing has ever stopped you. And that's the whole thing. But forcing this, that's my whole thing. It has to be voluntary trade. It's about freedom of the individual more than anything else. The person buying that doesn't have a lot of money, now they're gonna have to buy less things. Not only is there less choices, it's just less.
But that was already
things.
happening during Biden's time.
But it wasn't because of tariffs. It was because of how much
inflation was fucking up the roof.
Because it
to a consumer, what is the difference? At the end of the day, I'm still paying a shit ton of money for something that shouldn't cost that much money. So like that's why to me it's like tariffs, inflation. I'll take the tariffs over the inflation.
The tariffs are like a medium-term inflation, and if their plan works out over the long term, things will get cheaper because it'll work. But that'll take a long time because supply chains take a long time.
Well, you are a long-term investor, so am I.
Yeah.
I am looking for the long haul here. So let's hope for the best.
True,
yeah, I mean, if you're an investor, you don't care about the short term, you care about the long term. So I'm okay with it. If there's vision to this, which I'm assuming there is because he's a vision guy and we are too, we'll see what happens. But talking about that, we're going into like perfect, like everything's
You guys are both super cool. You, Mary, and Laz, you guys are super cool. And this whiskey's good, man. Really nice.